Hi, I'm David Hakimi with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and I'm here today with Kim Clancy of Mindful Mortgage. Today we're going to talk about top strategies to win a bidding war in the Denver market. Super competitive market that we're in right now.
Very.
Brutal. And I can tell you it's not easy to win a bidding war, but I think we can bring some perspective to it that you might not have heard before. I'm one of the top listing agents in North Denver, so I'm often fielding big stacks of offers, so I can see the way that top well-written offers come in from the perspective of a listing agent, and I do still handle a fair number of buyers as well, so I am also writing my own contracts, and through exposure to hundreds of files a year, literally, and hundreds of contracts a year, we found the best strategies that stand out to win, so we're going to talk about them today. Number one, your realtor needs to call the listing agent with questions. They need to ask a few key things. They need to first ask the listing agent, if they'll disclose it, what offer amounts have you already got in hand? Now, some listing agents are going to refuse to give you this because it all comes down to whether their client gave them permission to disclose it or not. But if they'll tell you, you absolutely want to find out what the best thing they have in hand is so that you know where you stand. The next thing you want to ask them is, do you have any cash offers present? Because cash offers, quite frankly, can be a little hard to beat with a loan. So you want to see, not impossible to beat. We'll cover this here in one of the other points. There are ways to beat a cash offer with a loan, but it is nice to know if you're up against one because it gives you a little bit better idea of where you want to approach it from a strategy standpoint. And then the other real big one, is this listing agent accepting and presenting offers as they come in and hit their desk? Are they showing the seller, we just received this as they receive one, which can make a big difference because a lot of times if you don't get an offer in quick enough on one of those, it may go under contract before you do. The contrary to that would be, are they taking offers in all weekend up until a submission deadline, usually Sunday evening or Monday morning, and then presenting all those to the seller, usually Sunday evening or sometime on Monday, and picking one once they got a big stack of offers in hand. So we want to know that because that'll also play into how we time the presentation of our offer to that listing agent. The last thing that we want to find out too is just basic stuff about the sellers. What are their motivating factors? What are their preferences? Some sellers are motivated by timing. If they've been relocated and they're strung between two mortgage payments, they may want a really quick closing. So it could come down to the offer that is relatively high but closes the fastest gets preferential treatment. Or it could be a seller that knows the house has a few issues, or they're worried that it might, or it may have older mechanicals, so they want to see that any offer that comes in is as is, just willing to take it without fixing anything on it. So that's another big motivation. And then a third big one that we see right now, some sellers want to lease back. They're going to basically say, look, we're going to sell you our house, but you're going to have to let us live in it for 2 months after closing, or 1 month. 2 months is actually the limit. I'll let you
It is. The 2 months is the limit. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will not call it a primary home if you're not going to occupy it within the first 2 months. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, on virtually every single offer I see right now, we are seeing free leasebacks.
I would agree.
Every single one.
I just sold my personal home a few months ago. I got a free leaseback. I got 2 months of free rent in the property. We were personally building a brand new construction home that was going to take several months to complete. We needed that extra time in the house so that we didn't have to go into super high month-to-month rental. So it was important to us for sure. And I can tell you, I see the same thing. Lots of sellers are demanding it. It doesn't always have to necessarily be a free lease back, but once again, that comes down to your agent, your buyer's agent, asking that listing agent, what do you have in hand? A lot of times they'll tell you, I got one that's giving us a 60-day lease back, but they want some money for it. So that tells me, okay, we need to write ours where we don't want any money.
I see them all now. They're free. And the thing is, for the lease backs, even if the people are not doing like how you did, how you were building or something like that, I'm finding that it almost gives the sellers, this is just my opinion, it almost gives the sellers like, oh, we have a 3-week close, but so I don't have to worry about this anymore, right? So it takes that whole like, is the person going to get approved for the loan, all this kind of stuff. It takes it off the plate because they don't have to worry about it. They're done. 3 weeks, we're done. We don't have to worry about it. Cool. Now we worry about packing.
Yeah, and it also comes down also to how strong that seller is when they go out to start making offers. If we can give them 2 months that they have a place to stay, that they can go out now completely non-contingent as a buyer and make offers 100% non-contingent with all of their equity in hand ready to go, that makes them much stronger when they go out to buy. So that's another reason why we see it. And the other simple thing about it is inventory is so limited right now. In Denver, we have literally 1/10 the normal inventory that we normally have. In a typical year, there's about 35,000 houses for sale along the Front Range from, say, Castle Rock up through Frederick. We've got about 35,000 3,000 houses at any given time. Right now we have 3,000 to 3,500. So
my gosh.
we literally have 1/10 the amount of inventory to pick from. And to compound that, the government during COVID dropped mortgage rates, so it spurred a tremendous demand. Everybody wanted to use the cheap money, and now there's nothing to use it on. So it's driving crazy bidding war. So that's really what you're seeing drive all this craziness and drive the rapid appreciation, is you've got dirt cheap loans and not a whole lot to select. So it's pushing what is out there way up when it comes to market. The last question that we would ask that listing agent is, are they okay with escalation clauses? Escalation clauses are a really common tactic right now that we'll cover here in a future point, but they're a common tactic, and we want to make sure that the listing agent is okay with them. Some aren't. Some agents say, no, we absolutely just want highest and best. Don't write me an escalation clause. It'll cause your offer to get tossed out. So we obviously want to know that before we go structure an offer and send somebody an escalation clause who is not okay with escalation clauses. Okay, and then the next thing, number 2, is you need to either submit your offer first or you need to be the last to submit your offer. And of course, this is going to come back to that conversation with the listing agent. If the listing agent is presenting offers as they come in, your strategy is completely different than it will be if they're collecting the offers and presenting them on Sunday or Monday. I mean, if they're taking them as they come in, the best strategy that we found is to put an example of basically it's a early acceptance clause, an early acceptance bonus. We'll write into the additional provisions, we're giving you this offer. Our offer is $500,000 if you accept it past the first 24 hours. However, if you accept our offer within the first 20 hours, our offer is $510 or $520. So we put a carrot in the offer that gives that listing agent incentive to present it quickly and push to get it signed, because there's extra money on the line if they sign it quickly. Of course, in that situation, you want that offer in fast, and for obvious reasons. If they're presenting as they come in, unfortunately, I hear this all the time. People see a property they love, and before we can even get a showing set on it, it went under contract because something great came in. The seller didn't want to fool with keeping the house open for showings throughout the weekend, so they said, we're just going to take this, it's good enough. So obviously, if they're presenting as they come in, you got to get that offer in quickly. To the contrary, if they're holding the offers through the weekend, I do the exact opposite, because I can tell you as a listing agent, when I've got a stack of offers and my phone is blowing up and I'm getting all these other agents, buyer's agents calling me, asking me, what are my seller's motivating factors? What do you have in hand? Of course, I'm going to do my job for my seller and try and work that price up as high as I can. I always get my sellers to give me permission to disclose what we have in hand, and I absolutely use it to work any inbound offers up. So if I get a really fat offer that came in right off the bat, anybody that calls me, I'm saying, hey, in order to compete, you're going to have to beat X amount. And I'll disclose it and say it's going to have to beat this. It's going to have to beat the as-is terms. It's going to have to beat the free lease back. I've got one with all that stuff on it. If you want to compete, you got to beat that. Of course, some of those people will bow out, but some of them will step up to the plate and say, I can beat that. Of course, the next offer then comes in a little higher. And what do I do to the next call? I try and play them off of the next one, so on and so forth, all the way through the weekend. So that tells me when I'm writing an offer, I know that other listing agents that are good are doing the same thing. So I definitely don't want my nice fat offer to be the first thing that listing agent has in their hand at the beginning of the weekend. I'm going to hold my offer back until 5 or 10 minutes before the submission deadline cutoff, so that my big juicy offer comes in absolute last and they can't use it for the whole weekend to play other inbound offers up with it.
You know what I was just thinking about when you said that? You guys remember The Price is Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the fourth person was normally the person who won, right? Because they get to see the 3 other offers, then they go in, best and final, Price is Right, they win.
And you're
it's
right.
the same thing.
And statistically, they're the one that got called down to play the game. You're absolutely right. Same thing happens with your home offer. So if you got a listing agent collecting offers through the weekend, you absolutely do not want to send a nice strong offer to them right off the bat at the beginning of the weekend. So depending on circumstances, submit first or last. Number 3, cash is king. If you've got the ability to write an all cash offer, cash offers are typically the ones that get picked above anything with a loan for a few reasons. They aren't subject to underwriting. They're not subject to an appraisal. They're not subject to somebody losing their job a day before closing and the underwriter says, can't close this loan now. So cash offers are typically viewed the highest, but you may have some commentary on that.
Well, I do, because I also feel that there's, during a process of a loan, lots of things can actually happen. And even if they are a cash offer, I know that there's not a loan contingency, but I'm sure if they lost a job, then they'll just risk their earnest money, right? Because they can't afford to actually pay for the house. And I also think a lot of times cash offers, now this is just a blanket statement.
Sure.
But cash offers are coming from people that are investors or buying second, third, fourth properties because it's a lot to pay cash for a property.
They got to be well off in order to
Exactly.
do it. And if you're well off, sometimes you're super well off, and this is your second or third home, especially here in an area like Denver, which is a popular destination to buy a second home. So
I find that cash offer people aren't always as connected.
Yeah, they may not have as much.
The heart is not as much.
Yeah, you don't want to so much say they don't have as much skin in the game, but they're not as attached to it. You're right.
Correct.
They may be doing it as a second home. They've got the money to say, if we don't get it, we'll just back out of it if everything's not 100% perfect.
Right.
And I've heard that from a lot of listing agents that cash offers are sometimes less desirable from that aspect.
So I have a question for you. Okay. So I was buying a second home in Florida, and in Florida, it seems pretty reasonable that they're saying to make cash offers on things that you're getting financing for. So for example, I had to show proof of funds that I could pay cash. I could only get out of the contract for inspection. I could not get out for appraisal. But after they accepted my offer, they didn't care if I did financing.
Got it.
What do you think about that?
You know what? I have a strong opinion on that. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that, you remember I said earlier that sometimes cash isn't infallible. It can be beat with a loan. I have an offer right here that I brought as an example. This is an offer that I accepted a week ago, or didn't accept. I fielded it a week ago on one of my listings, and at first I thought, hey, this is my offer, but when I started to read a little deeper into it, I saw a few red flags in the offer that indicated to me that particular buyer may be presenting this as a cash offer, but their real intention was to use a loan. And ultimately, spoiler alert, this offer did get beat by a loan. And I can tell you what I saw on the offer that tipped me off. In the additional provisions on this offer, it had verbiage that said, buyer reserves the right to alter the terms of financing so long as such change does not affect the seller's proceed or other dates and deadlines set forth in this contract. Why would they need to put that in? It makes it sound like they reserve the right to switch to a loan midstream if they want to switch to a loan. That is how I read between the lines on it. So, of course, I went deeper into the dates and deadlines section of the Colorado contract, and I started to do a little more detective work. Sure enough, they put a little bogus deadline for an inspection location certificate, which in Colorado is like a light inspection of the property lines to make sure the boundaries are good and what the initial survey said they were. Lo and behold, they lined that date up on closing. So they gave themselves an out in the contract right up until the day of closing for some little piece of minutia. And unfortunately in Colorado, the Colorado Real Estate Commission writes our contract to be extremely slanted towards buyers' rights. So even if this is a BS reason, they could still cite it, and they're going to force us to go to court to try and win the earnest money. Most courts here in Colorado are never going to find in favor of a seller. They're going to say, just let it go, find a new contract. So between that sketchy date that lined up with closing and that little piece of verbiage and the additional provisions, essentially I called BS on this. I said, this is not a cash offer. This is presenting as a cash offer, a lot like what they told you to do in Florida, but they absolutely intend to transition this to a loan. And, and the other verbiage said if it doesn't materially affect and it doesn't change anything, I get that. But the one thing that I see also when I read between the lines on this is that they really don't want to use their cash. The cash is, and they actually sent me their proof of funds. Cash is tied up in an investment account. So, of course, they're going to pay fees to liquidate it. They're going to pay taxes to liquidate it. They're going to get hit with a lot of penalties if they actually pull this. So, tells me these people really don't want to touch this money. They don't have any intention of touching this money. They're trying to say, hey, we've got enough money to pay cash if we want to. But I guarantee you, if that loan gets turned down, they're going to go to that BS date that they pulled, and they're out, and they're going to be on to the next thing and figure out what they need to do to fix their loan. But this thing was super flimsy in my opinion. Even though it presented as all cash, I tossed it and I took an offer with a loan, beat that cash offer. What you just named definitely happens. I encounter it all the time. I usually call BS on it and toss it right out. So cash.
So not a good way to do it.
Not a good way to do it. It's pretty risky if you got an agent out there or a lender telling you to present that way. I'm telling you, a good listing agent that knows what they're looking at, it's going to smell that from 10 miles away, toss it out on its ear, which I did.
Good.
Yeah. So be careful if you're thinking about doing that. Probably likely to blow up in your face. Thanks for watching part 1 of our series today on top ways to win a bidding war in the Denver market. If you want to see the follow-up segments, click and subscribe below and hit the bell so you get notified when the next one comes out. And if you want to hire either myself or Kim Clancy, our number is shown below, and we've got a link in the description to make an online application with Mindful Mortgage and Kim. Remember, hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to follow up to this video coming out shortly. We look forward to seeing you guys around next time. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.